Is that how we start?
That's how we start.
Oh, the claps.
Start the clap.
We always start with the clap.
For what reason?
So what happens is when you're lining up your audio
Yes.
with your video, the clap, the spikes. If you get your spikes all in line, your videos will all be in line.
That's going to be such a cool icebreaker because I asked exactly the same question.
Dude, that's
when we did our potty.
It's something I learned I went on some course on videography. And the first thing they taught me was before anything you do, clap 3 times because that's your starting marker. Because you'll have 3 quick spikes in your voices, and as you do the clap, you'll be able to line it up with your hands.
Okay, it's like Roderick Chavez. He always does this. He's like, you got this like countdown.
Yeah,
you know, like
but the clapping helps with the vocals.
Very cool.
We should offer our guests the chance to clap.
Clap 3 times.
Yeah, when they do it, just
clap
like
3 times.
No, you fucked it up, man.
Okay.
You don't want spike. You want spike.
Okay, so
Put
it's consistent sparks.
Caleb, the cameraman's gonna have an epileptic fit.
Yeah, I could just check. I saw the nervous twitch. Like, fuck
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, exactly. Fucking with my levels.
Yeah, dude, thanks for being here. I think
Thanks for having me.
the idea of what we want to do here is chat to meaningful men that are going through cool stuff and been through hard stuff. And I think you're in a cool position. So just to establish some credibility to what you're saying, and you can expand on this, but Ian Cornell, also known as Empire Coaching on Instagram.
Part of the Team Skip brand.
Yeah, Team Skip. You're a established coach, coached some of the best athletes in South Africa, worked with some of the best coaches in the world. Currently a competitive bodybuilder, coaching a couple of competitive bodybuilders. Got a couple of businesses under your belt. Just started a new business, which we'll expand on, the Bloods business. And more so just someone that enjoys helping people. I think that evolved from your younger days, and I think we'll get into that, how it was kind of capitalist, growing your own brand, growing yourself, and how that's expanded. So, and we want to get into that, pick that apart.
Pick away. Yeah.
Understand how it works, and so that's.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing what you guys are doing is you creating safe spaces for guys like me to do the work. You know, like, I'm not a doctor, I don't pretend to play one on the internet, but I've linked up with a decent amount of them to kind of learn what I've learned, you know, like, it's not an accident that I've learned what I've learned. I've put myself in those places. You know, I've had amazing clients. I mean, taught by some of the old days, we used to all be part of the internet forums, you know what I mean? And I learned from some of the old guys that literally paved the way for us. They were the guinea pigs, you know, like, they're the ones who started all of the stuff for us. And I think through evolution and access to information, everything's grown and evolved, and it's no longer like just guesswork. There's method to the madness, you know. And as I was saying, like, you guys are opening up a space to hold forum for a lot of people to be aware that these things are normal. You know, like, I think the biggest thing that happens with mental health and hormone awareness and all that sort of thing is, who do you go and talk to about it? You know, you can go to every second person or whatever the case is, and you say like, oh, I'm feeling like this, and you're not supposed to feel like that. That's not normal, you know. And as we were alluding a little bit earlier, that healthy hormone levels over the last 20 years have diminished. You know, men 20 years ago used to go for blood tests and get their testosterone tests, and you're sitting at like 500. Now the average is like 250, 300. I mean, that's a very remarkably decreased amount, which is going to have a long-term effect on mental health, you know.
And what's the normal range?
Well, if you're looking at what range and optimal is, I'll give you a prime example of why sometimes treating the blood test doesn't treat the symptom. Is a client that I actually worked with today. Got his blood work back, whatever the case is. I asked him in my questionnaire was, how many times do you have, how is your libido, number one, on a scale of 1 to 10, and how frequently are you getting morning erections? And he says, I get a morning erection once a week, and my libido is at about a 3 or 4 out of 10. Yeah, dude, like this is a normal thing, right? He's a highly successful man, wife, kids, very successful in business, everything else like that. And then when you dig deeper down into the questionnaire, like, you know, the amounts of stress that the man's dealing with, the amounts of convenient food that he's eating, all that sort of thing, has now got him to a point where the overconsumption of everything else has put him in a space where he's in an unhealthy hormone range. Now, you look at the blood test, and the blood test says 250 to 580, and his is sitting at 320. He's in the range. Like your normal GP would say, okay, cool, that's great. But you look at the symptoms, they don't correlate. So what is normal and what is optimal are two different things. Sometimes you have to treat the symptom of the person and treat the person more so than using the blood test as, you use the blood test as a guideline. So obviously working with Renee, sent her the report and obviously put it out there that testosterone replacement therapy is something that would be needed. Starting at a moderate dose of a certain milligrams per kilo body weight as a baseline to see where he goes. So it's something that's not going to drive hormones too high, have any adverse side effects with blood viscosity and estradiol and all those sort of things, but puts him in a healthy, safe range where he feels
normal vigor.
Yeah, vigor.
Bigger, yeah, 100%.
Vigor.
Oh, vigor, sorry, yes. And you know, that's right. And it's like, well, if one, and I think this is where we've all done this in the bodybuilding space, we'll take 200 milligrams of testosterone, which works out to, let's say, 2 milligrams per kilo, if we're a 100 kilo person, whatever, and that gives you a certain level of alpha. But what's 4 times that going to do? What's 6 times going to do? What's 8 times going to do? You know what I mean? Like, there also becomes diminishing return, right? Eventually you get to a certain point and there's no more benefit. So
your body can only absorb so much.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that sounds, that's an interesting one, because when you're youngish and starting out, you think that's a fallacy. Like, you think people are just telling you that because more is always better.
No, more is not better.
No, it's 100% not, right? We know this, okay?
We've experienced
mostly through experience, is that you can bang
1,000 milligrams of testosterone and you can bang 500 milligrams of testosterone and your growth rate is the same.
Yeah.
Your side effects are 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Yes. And that also comes down to androgen to estrogen ratio. So I've had guys that have been utilizing 500 to 1,000 milligrams of testosterone and they're more depressed than they were when they were off the testosterone because the estradiol and the estrogen to androgen ratio is completely off.
Yeah.
But how would you know this? If you don't have blood work to work with, you're kind of missing the point. And also having a doctor that is on board. There's a guy that I'm actually very friendly with. I coached him a long time ago. A guy named Dr. Nicholas Downey. I think he does podcasts on YouTube, Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, and goes through like proper studies and gives people a lot of information out there. And very, very smart guy. And like literally, I have the capability of WhatsApping and asking him questions. Like these are the people that I've surrounded myself with, not by accident, in order to be able to put myself in this position to ask these questions. And there's a lot of correlation between those things, right? And the biggest thing is we just need to have someone who's able to monitor it. I had another client that came to me last week. He went to his doctor. His doctor agreed to put him on TRT, 100 milligrams every 2 weeks.
What a waste of time.
We say that it's a waste of time, but we're dealing with somebody who is a GP that's in his 50s. He's never had to do anything other than prescribe antibiotics and pain meds and, you know, the general normal stuff.
I think that would have a worse, the adverse effects would be worse off for you because you're going to diminish your natural testosterone levels completely.
Yeah.
You're not going to manufacture anything of your own. You're going to sit there, you're going to put yourself into an androgenic state. Your estrogen level is going to catch up. Eventually you're going to stop. He's not going to know what a PCT is.
Yeah.
He's going to go completely estrogenic. He's going to become moody as hell.
And you've hit the nail exactly on the head. The biggest problem is
he's going to lose all of his gains.
Yeah, well, not that he was getting much. The problem comes in is he has a lot of body fat. So number one, if he had gone for baseline blood tests, he would have said it had a low testosterone to a high estradiol ratio. Now that you've put in subpar levels of testosterone, the estradiol's gotten worse. So it's made him feel even worse. So he said that he actually felt worse being on TRT, and TRT doesn't work. Obviously, gone through the blood tests and whatever the case is, sent him back. This is obviously before dealing with Renee. Sent him back and said to his doctor, can I up my dose to 50 milligrams every 3 days? The doctor was a bit like, changed it anyway, did it on his own accord, or whatever the case is. He says he has never felt better in his life.
Woke up with a heart on every morning.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. That's another thing, right? He now feels alpha again. He now feels like a normal human being. He now knows what it feels like to be 25 years old, 20 years old, 16 years old, like wherever you want to put yourself in that position, all from getting the right dosing from the right healthcare provider.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys both have a foundation in forums, right? You've both been part of that underground community that's exposed to steroids and performance enhancing drugs. And there's a lot of bro science that exists on that. But I think where that sometimes trumps the idea of doctors is there's a lot of anecdotes and
real life experience,
right? And you know, you don't want to ever say, okay, this doctor who's wildly qualified and very good at doing his job is underqualified.
It's not that they're underqualified. Remember, doctors are there, and yes, they study for 5 years, and they go do 2 years of ComServe and whatever, what else not. But what they study on hormones is this much in a textbook. Minimal. Their understanding of testosterone is it's a reproductive male. That's it. Okay, cool. Your testicles make it. Well done. Artificial testosterone to them is a complete anomaly. It's not something that's ever really been, unless you go and specialize in it and actually go and do all the other studies. And I mean, then you're running clinical trials, and clinical trials is human testing. And what have we been doing for the last 15 years?
Testing.
I think that's exactly it. And I think there's anecdotal evidence to say that sometimes you have to treat the symptoms more than the blood test. Number one, as we said earlier. Going on what you're saying is sometimes the doctors don't even need to go down that rabbit hole of specializing in going to do clinical trials themselves, because with the birth of the internet, we have access to information that is ridiculous.
A lot of it's bro science as well.
Yeah, and that's what I love about Dr. Nick Downey, is that he's gone and broken down those studies. He's gone and done the research. He's done all of those sort of things, and he's put that information out there on every substance that we possibly can take, right? And then it's just the ability to have an interest in dealing with something like this. As I said, GPs generally, for the most part, have people walking in saying, I've got the flu, I need an antibiotic, I'm feeling slightly depressed, and all they've taught is, okay, cool, that must be a dopamine, a serotonin issue. We're going to put you on a medication that will help with either one of those two or a combination of the two. But they don't look at the causation. They don't do the diagnostics to say, okay, but what are you dealing with at home? Like, okay, cool, what's your life stresses in terms of work out of 10? Is it a 10 out of 10 at work? Yes, it's a 10 out of 10 at work, and then I come home and it's a 10 out of 10 with my wife, and it's a 3 out of 10 with my children because I see them every second weekend because they with the step parents or whatever the case is, and you know, or the mother or the father. And you look at all of those things, and that's the causation of having high cortisol. And when cortisol's high, DHEA is low. It's like a seesaw. DHEA is being one of your precursor hormones to testosterone, to pretty much everything. So without balancing those things out, you've got to kind of like take one away. Like, let's take away the stress of work. Would that then improve things? Yes. So I've had a couple of clients that come to me like, oh, I'm ready for TRT, but I'm like, look at certain things, and I'm like, we don't even need TRT. Like, let's take ashwagandha to reduce your cortisol levels, and like work on your nutrition and stop putting yourself in a constant state of overtraining, all that sort of thing.
Or actual train.
Yeah.
Train with people think volume is the way to train, right? So you're like, especially with females, like you get some of them that are prepping for shows, they're doing 25 working sets 6 times a week with 45 minutes of cardio on 800 calories. They might as well just lick the road, paint on the road in order to get calories.
But the difference is, right, and people maximize on this, is women have a higher pain threshold.
Yes.
So they can outwork. So that work fits into what they can physically do. But right, where hormones play an important part, and this is where bro science becomes important, is the metrics that a lot of bodybuilders and gear users are using to excel in their sport, right? Big appetite. I mean, we have guys asking, okay, that'll start gear. And I'll be like, okay, cool, you've got to manage a couple of things, right? This is the very dumbed down version. We say you've got to manage appetite, you've got to manage sex drive, you've got to manage sleep. Look at your acne, Acne, and irritability and mood, right? And mood is not only irritability; it's also if you're hitting lows.
Yeah.
Now those
depression.
Yeah, those hormonal effects. Those are hormonal impacts. So when you start looking at that, so yes, you'll get these women that can physically do that. But if you had to apply these very simple checks onto how they're actually faring in their life, mate, like those are not sustainable models.
They're not. And the biggest thing with women, and I know this is more, we will get involved in this because this is men's health, but women's health is just as important, right? Women have ovaries which are basically Rubik's cubes attached to their uterus. Because they are the hormones that they kick out. You got your luteal phase, you got your follicular phase. Obviously, follicular phase, the first 2 weeks, which is from day 1 of bleed. For the first 14 days, estrogen is your dominant hormone. That's your feel-good hormone. Those girls are happy, they're fine, they're doing everything. Day 14, blip of testosterone. Therefore, like normal food doesn't. They want fruit of the loins. Like that's when you're ovulating, right? That's when their sex drive goes through the roof. And then you go into the luteal phase, where progesterone is the dominant hormone. So if you just were to have a person that wasn't on, that's the, and that's where majority when progesterone peaks, a lot of women suffer from PMS and PMDD, like the depressive state. I've had clients that have literally had to take an antidepressant for 7 days, every single month as the last week of their cycle, because their PMDD is that bad. So now that's just a normal person, right? Then you've got birth control. Birth control, hormonal birth control is another level, right? It's an anti-androgen, so majority of the time when women take an oral contraceptive, they should be taking some form of testosterone replacement therapy because they're blocking testosterone receptors, and that's why they suffer from mood swings and all that sort of thing. Everybody is so genetically different. It's such a big thing.
I know a lot of really good coaches that won't train women because of the unpredictability and how volatile the hormonal level is. Like even if you get a high-performing guy that's going through a lot of stress, that level is going to be relatively stable. So if you start adding cardio, if you start taking away food, if you start playing with variables, even hormonal levels, you can understand, right? Women, it's so difficult. Like I've had a glimpse into that sometimes when you take a fat burner and you're tired and depleted. I can't handle the mood swings I had were just unreal. And I remember chatting to a fellow female competitor. I said, is this what it is? And she's like, that's what it's like. That's how we prep. It's what makes them more resilient, right? Women are stronger and more emotionally resilient than men because of this volatility they deal with on the daily. But it's a complex mix. And that complex mix requires a different training strategy, not per day or every day, and also a very different calorie demand. Like I've seen some really good coaches that say they'll actually measure and they'll say, in certain times of the month, you will change your calories.
Yeah, did you not read my posts? That's my sweat and squat
I was referring to you.
Yeah. So now a lot of coaches that are saying that they won't take female clients on because of the hormonal changes, birth control flattens that out. It either puts you in a permanent state of being in the follicular phase or in the permanent state of being in the luteal phase, depending on which one you take. The problem is, yet again, as I say, like those synthetics used in birth control are so harsh, they're actually 10 to 20 times more stronger than what normal bioidentical hormones are. So if you look at, for example, what a woman would need to do HRT, so hormone replacement therapy, she's gone through menopause, great, we need to put you on HRT. Majority of the time they need, like, I can't remember, I think hormonal birth control is 20 milligrams of ethyl estradiol, which is like a synthetic form of estrogen, whereas the bioidentical version need 200 milligrams. So that's what I'm saying, like it's literally 10 times stronger.
I had a vasectomy. Gents, for those of you who are thinking about it, best thing ever. 2 reasons why. 1, your chick never has to go into this birth control thing. Yes. And 2, no other chick can ever come and say to you, it's mine.
Father's Day is interesting. You just switch your phone off just in case. And that's the thing, right? So like because there's such a lack of knowledge, and most male coaches treat women as little men. Like, cool, we're going to put you on X amounts of Anavar. I've seen guys literally put women on 50 milligrams of Anavar. I think it was say Forum Space here, when we were prepping you for World Champs last week, you didn't use more than 30 milligrams. What most people don't understand is a TRT dosing of testosterone for women starts at 3 milligrams per week. And that should put you in the 40 to 60 nanograms per deciliter.
Yeah.
When you start going to the over 100 nanograms per deciliter, you find that those are your upper echelons of the competitive sporting world, the sprinters, the runners. And that what they'll do is, like, you go, for example, you've got the Russians and the Chinese. They're measuring those levels in their children from 3 years old to get the sporting advantage. Like, we're far behind in that regard. And I had somebody else the other day, I was watching one of these internet forums, and she was saying she's using 25 milligrams for TRT. And I was like, 25 milligrams of testosterone? I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Which ester, though?
Regardless. Nevertheless, and I'll give you the reason for this, is because if you look at people going through gender reassignment surgery, that's anywhere between 75 and 100 milligrams a week. This woman's using, if let's say that's 25%, it should be, but yet if you're just doing normal TRT, you should be the 3 to 5% of that range to put you, but you need to have blood work to know what you're doing. It's like saying your car breaks down on the side of the road and there's smoke coming out of the engine. You're like, I'm not willing to open the hood and get somebody to come and do diagnostics because I'm scared of the results.
Just replace the piston.
100%, let's just replace the vehicle, and that's the scary thing. Is this is why Renee and I have teamed up, is that I do all the correlation of the work in terms of asking all the right relevant questions. We get the blood work done and we correlate what's happening with you in your life to your blood work, and if there needs to be prescription meds, she gets the report and she then is happy to script out things. So it's not, as I said, I don't pretend to play doctor on the internet, and I'm not going to start pretending to be one in real life. But when you've got somebody who's just got as much vested interest in helping people as I do, it works in a great synergy.
Yeah, and the problem with hormones on an elevated scale, where people are abusing them in the gyms and trying to get bigger because more is better. That's the misconception, is more is better.
It's not.
More works, but it's more of the right thing.
Yeah, but you're gonna get to a point where it's just toxic to your body.
Look, I remember having a conversation with somebody who was telling me he was running 3,000 milligrams of testosterone a week, 10 mils of 300 milligrams testosterone and nanthate. I'm like, dude, you are going to give yourself a heart attack.
Yeah. And you know what also people don't realize is that we talk about this in the bodybuilding world, and it applies to most things, is, he's genetically superior to be a bodybuilder. And people don't actually know what that means. What it could mean is that your body processes less toxicity from using exogenous hormones than your peer.
Yes.
Right? Some people can just take a lot and their body actually does the right. Those are very few and far between.
Yeah, or you have a myostatin deficiency or growth hormone deficiency.
Or you've got a
growth agromegalia, which is basically giantism, where you've got too much growth
hormone.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. Screw my parents for the shitty genetics not having that,
Or you
like
just
in
have
my
a great
instance,
appetite.
I've got, my body produces 2.5 times more insulin than the average human.
Yeah.
It's just, I can live off sugar.
So we've got this, we've got the extreme, right, where people are abusing because more is better, and they're chasing an end result, which is fine at whatever cost. Then we've also got the other extreme where people are having their symptoms disguised by lifestyle. Like, they'll have lower appetite, they'll be not sleeping well, they'll have irritability, low sex drive. They'll go to a doctor, they'll go to a psychologist, and a lot of these guys are going to say, well, they could be lifestyle. And they're right.
It's technology. I'm telling you now, it's because of the age of technology. The reason why men are becoming less and less masculine is because they're spending more and more time behind a computer. I mean, you go back, let's go back 1994.
We used to hunt.
Yeah, I think there's more factors to what and I agree with that being a part of the problem.
Yeah. Remember, we didn't have the internet prior 90s.
Yeah.
So we used to have to walk to the post office to get mail out. Email was no such thing. As we went further into the internet age, I mean, look at how far we developed in the last 25 years. Let's go from 2000 to today. Look at how much our phones have gotten to. I remember when I had a phone, it was a flip phone. You'd be able to send a text, receive a call. Now you can literally spend 8 hours on your phone like this and not realize that the time's gone past.
Based on that, right, I think we now are living in a world of convenience, right? We're living in the world of...
We don't have to do anything.
We don't have to do anything, you're right. But also, you don't even have to go and cook for yourself. You can just order Mr. Delivery, you can order Uber Eats, you can get Checkers 6060, whatever the case is. The convenience is you don't even need to cook the food because it comes in a lovely, shiny, colorful plastic packet that says biscuits on it, and like it's full of numerous other chemicals. You know, and there's a lot of the time when I start dealing with clients, when they come to me and they say, well, I've been eating this, I've been eating that. And I'm like, we need to get you down to single ingredient foods. So they're, well, what do you mean? So it's like, well, if you look on the back of it and it doesn't say only oats or only rice or only potato or only chicken or whatever the case is, you're not going to use it. Oh, but that makes life difficult, you know. You have to have like an 80%, 20% rule, because sometimes when you're dealing with guys like, let's use Troy, for example. You know, Troy, highly successful human being, world-class man, one of the best friends you could ever ask for, kind of things. And yet he's a businessman first. Oh, sorry, he's actually a husband first, businessman, and then a father, whichever way he would like to describe it. The father part is a big thing. So he'll come home and he'll prepare his food and his kids will eat that. Majority of people don't have that access. Like, for example, you might go home to your missus and your missus has made spaghetti bolognese. It's easy, it's convenient, it's lovely, it's fantastic, great. But pasta's, yeah, exactly. But pasta isn't a single ingredient food source. It has preservatives in order to have shelf life and all that sort of thing. It's got GMO crop if you're buying local. You know, if you buy anything that's out of the EU, they can't use GMO crop or GMO wheat, which means that there's less likelihood that it's going to be harsh on the body. And you look at some of those Italians, they've lived until 105, 110 years, and they've been eating nonna's pasta that's been handmade from ground milled flour.
So I agree. I think that we'll have this primordial response, right? The stress that we're born with. Our instinct is to hunt. We need those stresses, and as life becomes less stressful, we're almost required less to be this aggressive being. Right? Yes. So life is probably softening us, but what's happening is...
No, you can't be the aggressive being anymore, because I mean, now if you PK somebody, you get a 5-year court sentence.
Yeah, well, and you can't, like, the systems are so in place that you aren't allowed to.
Yeah, they've made it so that weak men flourish.
Yeah. But also, with the birth of the internet, there are a lot of people that have got big mouths that would say stuff on the internet that they wouldn't say to your face. And I think that's what you and we have this conversation quite frequently over coffees, is that I'm happy to tell you to your face what I would tell you on the internet. Like, I'm not going to hide behind anything. I'm not going to hide behind a message. I'm going to agree with what I said, and I'll be honest with what I said. If I think that you're a dick, for example, I will tell you over a message, and I'll tell you to your face.
You see, and that's a lot of the differences. We do have quite a big conflict avoidance society.
Yes.
And it's in that place. And whether that's a good or bad thing, you know, some people are better at conflict than others. It might just level the playing field. So whether it's fair or not is one thing. But what's happening is your body still has those stress reaction capabilities, right? If you're not using them on stuff that we used to, because evolution is slow, then you're going to stress on other things. So, you know, there's all those memes about, why does my anxiety realize that this email is not a lion chasing me? Like, why am I having the same reaction? Like, surely, and that's why you always, when you want to surround yourself...
The heading of the email is.
It depends. It depends. If it's from, right? But a lot of the time...
Sometimes the lion is the bank that you didn't pay.
Or the wife for the settlement, the ex-wife.
Oh, don't go there, Sheldon.
Yeah. So these conditions present in a new form, right? We've always had this. We've always had to have a stress mechanism. But like we always talk about, trust fund kids, is they're going to have stress. Their stress at the moment is different to our stress. It's the choice and the color of their Lamborghini. I wish I had that stress.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't. But it induces the same reaction. It's the same talk we had about suffering. Like, who really has permission to talk about difficult times? Okay? So what we're doing is we're living in a new age where people are just as stressed as you're biologically programmed for. Okay? Your body didn't change overnight because you could order Uber Eats. You've still got those stress mechanisms. So we're going to lifestyle people. And they're telling us that stress at home is too much, this is too much, not realizing or not also taking into account that those lifestyle stresses are causing hormonal drops.
Cortisol's high, precursor hormones are low.
Yeah, and without that cognizance, without that consideration, we're not always going to be treating these misdiagnosed lifestyle symptoms. Oh, your sex drive's low, you're irritable with your wife. Well, you guys have been married for 10 years, that's normal. What if it's not? What if you're just really, because you're eating a lot of junk, you're not training, you're not eating well, and you probably need to, your natural hormone production is dropping because of all these synthetic compounds you're eating or being exposed to, or pollution. So then people just go to these specialists, and 90% of the time they're right, but they're wrong a lot of the time.
It's because they're sorting out the symptom, they're sorting out the cause. They're not looking at the cause. Like when you walk into a doctor's office, you've got 15 minutes. You have to literally diagnose somebody's life within 15 minutes. My questionnaire that I send out to clients are 17 pages long, going through everything. Like,
dude, I'm dyslexic. Come on.
I told you.
Yeah. It's fine. I can have that conversation with you and fill it in for you. There's no problem there. Yeah. But if you don't have the whole picture, you're only getting a snapshot of what's going on.
Yeah, and I would even enhance that analogy by saying, if you think you know what the picture is, you're not going to go to a psychologist for what is very common hormonal consequences, and psychologist is going to go, you need to go for your bloods. They're not. That's not the ambit of expertise.
No, they're going to ask you how that makes you feel.
Yeah, 100%. But yet again, it's because they're not versed in that. It's like going to an endocrinologist. You're not going to go to an endocrinologist for orthopedic work.
Yeah, correct.
Level of space, like you're literally going from shotgun approach GP to very much rifle approach specialist, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, with the conversations that I've had with Renee, being a doctor and GP, she's now gone into focusing on those sort of things so that we can help people that have got these problems, right? But you were saying something about anxiety just now, and do you think that it potentially could be now with all these hormonal deficiencies, now people have got lower and lower in testosterone, whereas 500 nanograms per deciliter 20 years ago was low, to now 200 was low, is that you've lost that alphaness, that you actually aren't willing to take on confrontation and conflict in a healthy manner to progress and better yourself?
Well, yes and no. I think the world changes, so why must you use the same equipment? Why are we going hunting with spears when we've got guns? You say that guy's got a really terrible arm when it comes to throwing spears. He's not going to be a hunter, but you say, but he's a marksman.
Yeah. But he's a vegetarian, a man who can't hunt,
Yeah.
Small boy.
Yeah. But so I think there's a natural mechanism that's dropped as a consequence of how the world works, and I think it should. So do we need that much elevated testosterone in today's world? Probably not. It probably doesn't serve you well to be a super alpha in traffic.
No, especially not Joburg.
Yeah, in traffic, or if someone insults you or someone says something you don't like and you're a super alpha that is confrontation is your first port and call, you're actually going to get ostracized in this society.
Yeah, but that's also, I think as we've all learned from growing up, eventually you have to just have that cognitive intelligence to be like, or self-awareness of consequence.
Yeah.
What's the famous saying? Common sense is not so common, and I think self-awareness is just as bad.
I think they go hand in hand. Yeah. So I mean, it's like sitting there going, okay, well, somebody cut me off in traffic. I'm going to give this guy a PK, and then the guy pulls a gun on you and shoots you, for instance.
Right. Doesn't matter how alpha you are in that situation.
No, it means fuck all.
Yeah.
There's always a bigger dog in the fight.
Or, I mean, it's always the state of with a woman. If she drives you to a point of you needing to hit her, just walk away.
That's right.
Like walk away and just keep walking.
But there's probably an old school of thought which is outdated, is
Rule
that
of thumb.
is that you're not man enough if you don't deal with it with your fists.
No.
And agreed, we disagree with that. So there's I do think, although those measures of the past are indicative of a much more stressful time, I also think if you had to put a man of the past in the present, he'd be overwhelmed because of the EQ required to actually negotiate your way into success in this world.
And
I mean, let's not take into consideration, well, what we haven't taken into consideration is the access of substance and the capability of use of substance. And let's go for alcohol. You know, like we all have a very big disdain towards alcohol as a beverage, right? We don't like who it makes us become, whatever the case is. But you got, Sally's mom who says she needs to unwind from a stressful day
and have 2 bottles of wine.
Yeah. She drinks at least 3 glasses of wine before she goes to bed every single night. What is the effect of that on the body? Because ethanol in the body is poison. So what the body does is it shuts down all metabolic processes in order to get rid of it. That's why you start to urinate a lot.
It's mentioned the calorie count, 7 calories per mol.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, it's like the body's like, I don't want this in me. I need to get rid of it. But you're not poisoning yourself on a daily basis. There is a long-term effect to that. And you look at how alcoholics, I mean, you guys will get Derek, you'll get Derek on here, and Derek will go through these things where he'll tell you that one of the only substances that the 3 substances that he worries about when people get checked into his rehabilitation: alcohol, benzodiazepam, and heroin, because those are the 3 that you can die from withdrawal symptoms of.
Wow.
Yeah, that alprazolam's a big one. The thing is if you get caught on it, and hypothetically, I mean, you build up a tolerance to consuming 10 milligrams a day, and you stop,
there's a dependency.
You die.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
it's not something that you can just like kind of like brush off your shoulder and be like, okay, well, I'm going to quit today. It's something you have to tape it out.
But it's such a coping mechanism that you'll go to your GP and your GP. And 100%. But also, like I had the same problem is when I was suffering from depression and anxiety. I was told take Rivotril 2 milligrams 3 times a day. Rivotril is a long-acting benzodiazepam. You should be taking that once a day. And it's no foul on her behalf. It's what she was taught by the medical company. So, like, this is what we're dealing with. Is like, for the most part, majority of GPs are legalized drug dealers. There are very few, and I say very few, but that's a very terrible thing for me to say because they got into being a doctor for a reason. It wasn't for financial gain to start or whatever the case is, but they've kind of lost that disconnect where they don't ask the questions that need to be asked. So the first thing is, suffering from anxiety. Okay, cool. Can you stop drinking the 5 cans of Monster and 10 coffees that you're having? Like, no wonder you feel anxious all the time. But they don't. How can they discuss that in a 15-minute consult?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Like we talk about this a lot with men's mental health is knowing your baseline. And I always refer to Rob, you're very self-aware. Because we'll go in the morning, we'll train, and like, how are you? And he'll be like, I'm okay. I say, why just okay? He's like, oh no, I've got court cases this week.
Situational things, right?
Right? But he's aware. He knows his baseline is X. Now, as a good friend, I know, okay, cool. If there was, he never is any different, but if there was, where he was a little bit more irritable, or he wasn't as tolerant of something, if that ever came through or manifested, I could go and say, okay, I'm going to give him the grace. And hopefully he would give himself the grace. Now that's a cool self-awareness. Now he has it, I have it of him because I've spent so much time with him. So you have it of people that you spend a lot of time with. Now we've had where sometimes you'll use hormones, and this is a really good exercise in how the body works, is that we'll do for prep, right, for a show, is you'll take a certain amount of hormones and then you kind of want them to run out your body because sometimes they're inflammatory, so you want to look your best on stage. Now what that sometimes does is exposes you to a deficiency. So when you get post-show, your mood drops.
Yeah, and quickly.
100%.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Especially depending on the esters that you're running. I mean, if you're running a propionate, it's within a few days.
So that works out to be 5 times the half-life is generally for it to be eliminated. And you bring that up, and I'm thankful I had you in my corner last year.
Yeah.
Like, I became obsessively compulsive within my own negativity and self-loathing that you eventually said to me, like, you need to sort this out. I'm going to be that guy to book you into a facility.
Yeah.
Because for 2 weeks of my life, I was self-defecating. Like, I was just ripping myself to pieces. Yeah. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the wood for the trees. Until then, I was like, holy shit, it's been 6 weeks since I've been on my TRT. Yeah. Within literally 6 hours, I was completely a different person. And that's the biggest problem, is like, what I felt and became aware of in such a short space of time, and it was obsessive compulsive within myself, hyper anxiety, non-logical experience, that's 90% of the people that are out there. And why do you think we have such a big problem with men's health?
Well, yeah, and so that was a really good case study, because what you do is you expose your body to situations and circumstances and hormones that are quite different from what is really happening, or rather enhanced of what's really happening in the real world. So how that usually manifests in normal people is it's extrapolated over a longer time. It doesn't mean the results are less severe. So I knew, because when we went through that prep period and we go through a lot of the dieting and deficiency, and you're just tired, you've got to make weight, so there's a lot of factors. You stress yourself out, so that stress, it stacks. Then you rob yourself of those hormones, those happy hormones, those hormones that keep you stable. So you end up on this much lower level. And I remember chatting to you, and I was just like, mate, Ian, this is not how you would respond. And there was almost that penny that dropped, that I said, there's a hormonal chemical imbalance.
You were very much on belief that it was a chemical imbalance,
yeah.
And it turned out to be hormonal. And yet again, it's about having that baseline. And also having that person that's going to call you out, right?
Yeah.
The majority of my friends at that time were just, he's just going through a phase. You've got to have that person who loves you enough to say,
you're a puss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're in a dark hole.
Yeah.
You're dark to be around.
Stop being a puss.
Yeah, exactly. But yet again, we're sitting here, and like, we've had these conversations before. Obviously, I'm not as close to you as Sheldon is, but he's probably had the same conversations where you have to be fucking called out. And you leave that conversation feeling shit about yourself, but you're fucking glad that you had it.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, like, you haven't only surrounded yourself with me as a good friend. You've got a lot of friends, you help a lot of people out, a lot of people want to get close to you, right? You're a good person to know. I think it was actually just serendipitous that I noticed that drop, because the circumstances surrounding what you were going through were enough to justify you being difficult.
Yes.
Right, I think you'd just gone through a breakup. You just had a really good showing at essays, but the result, like, you didn't get the result you wanted, or I thought was justified. You know, it was a hard prep. Yeah. Right? So there were a lot of variables at play. So when people looked at you and they thought, jeepers, he's really stressing, what they were affording you was the grace, which is what your loved ones do. Is they said, you know what, that's still Ian. We still love him. We're still going to invite him out, and we're not going to have a go at him, and we'll give him the tolerance. And I think it was just when I was like, man, this guy's actually difficult to spend time with at the moment. And they were so different from the version I knew that I was like, hey, I think it's chemical. Okay. So I think it was just, it wasn't because you didn't have good people around you. No, I think why it was probably tolerated so long is actually people were like, oh, we're going to love him regardless. We love him. But what happens and how that manifests in other parts is that because it happens so slowly in other people's lives, they go through a divorce, it takes a long time, someone gets slightly worse. Right? They get slightly worse each time you see them, and you go, what's wrong with you? Nothing, man. You say, I must be going through a divorce. I'm not going to get too much into it. But it's this hormone, or this chemical imbalance that's just getting larger and larger, and we keep we keep justifying it by all the shitty things that are happening in our lives.
I think it's also suppressing your... Look, I mean... when you do Enneagrams and stuff like that, we've all got different personality types, and we're driven by different things. I mean, for me, I had one done, and it was joy. So for me, I'm a joy seeker. You know, high octane, it explains a lot about my life, why I enjoy bikes and fast cars and it's the suppression of doing the things that give you that happiness, that because I mean, look, happiness is an emotion.
And it's a choice too.
Yes, but it's not a state. You can be all the time. You cannot be happy all the time. It is actually, there's a scale to everything. And if it's too much on the one side, there's a deficit on the other. I've always seen life as, I mean, what? We have 28 different emotions, maybe even more. And when one syringe is full, it's taken from something else.
So there's two things that I want to say. When you were saying it's how we've been exposed to these sort of things over a longer period of time, it's like trickle, you know. As a good friend of mine, Charlton, always says, the longer you sit and shit, the less it starts to smell. Yeah. And then you're not willing, then you don't notice it. So there's the trickle part. What you're saying is, this too shall pass. Be it a good emotion, be it a bad emotion, this too shall pass. You're always going to be in that state where things, you don't always make decisions only when you're happy, and you don't only make decisions when you're only sad.
I can't be on my bike all the time. I have to put petrol in at some point.
but even that is a good analogy, is that this too shall pass, but you can't always rest on that, is sometimes you actually need to change the equipment or upgrade the equipment.
No, yeah, you have to.
And I think that's what's so powerful in this, is that I know, right?
You have
and
to
this
actively change your circumstance.
Yeah, like people will ask, oh, why are you dieting all year round? I said, that's not how I diet. That's not my diet. That's how I eat. I also eat for performance, right? I know sugar, junk food, oily foods, it actually makes me feel worse. So cognitively, I perform at a lower level.
But at the right time, it works. Like with skip loading, you know what I mean? Like we start you slow, and you were still people still don't understand, like Gary, you, myself, how we were some of the most conditioned athletes in the country last year. And majority of the time, we're just sitting there eating pancakes and waffles on a Sunday.
Bro, pancakes are the shit.
Exactly. It's basically waffles are pancakes with abs. They hold the syrup in too.
100%.
But you know what I mean? Like everything in moderation, everything at certain times.
Everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's not always as easy as to say that. And also, yet again, as I say, what you guys are doing by opening up the space to have these conversations, making it easy for people to have these conversations. I mean, safe enough space to say, I don't know if these guys won't know, but you guys know that I went on a magic mushroom trip this weekend. And the amounts of stuff that I dealt with using psychedelics, from stuff that I was 3 years old that I had to deal with. You know, like we don't, yet again, it's trickle dosing.
It opens up doors into pathways and into places where it's
being
scary.
vulnerable enough to do it.
Yeah.
And I think you were the first person I messaged afterwards, and then I was like, did you feel the love space that was open towards you? Because when you went through some tough times, I was there physically holding your hand, not metaphorically. I was physically there when you were going through some rough shit. Yeah. You weren't there with me, but emotionally, I had you there holding my hand the whole time. You know, like I couldn't express the love that I felt for you in the moment, and that's what the brotherly love is all about. You know, we choose the family our friends are the family that we choose, and the love that we decide to give out there. And I'm happy to say that, you know, like people don't understand when they hear me on the phone with you and say, love you, brother, bye, you know? And they're like, did you just tell him that you love him? I'm like, yeah, why? What's wrong with that? We're sitting in a society.
I get a hug.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and the problem comes in is we're sitting in a society where we just like, it's shunned to show real emotion. Yeah. Some people would show that as weakness, and I'm like, fuck, that's far from weak.
Yeah, there's the dream psychiatrist patient. Is the patient that walks in to the rooms and says, please tell me what's wrong with me. Yeah. Why? I say, well, either there's something wrong with me or there's something wrong with the world, and one of them I can fix. Right? And that's what a lot of hormonal mental health...
Fix it? Blow the whole fucking thing up!
Yeah. That's not a well-adjusted response.
Yeah, okay? Yeah. But that's the whole Freud movement. Freud is like, you have to fix the trauma that brought you there. Yeah. Whereas, what happens if we were looking at the movement of let's fix the trauma so that there is no trauma moving forward? one is to fix the past, one is to fix the future.
You need trauma. Like we
Yes.
spoke
Yeah.
about it in our Suffering Cat, is that resilience.
And
is
somebody
trauma.
throwing up in front of you is not trauma.
Well, it's their trauma.
But yet again,
They've earned that. It's just not preparing them for an easy life.
100%, but also that's contrast as well. You've got to go through what you don't want in order to know what you do want.
Yeah.
So trauma is obviously a very broad spectrum scale, like what you may feel is traumatic is different from what I may feel is traumatic, was different from what you may feel is traumatic to Caleb. Like him dropping his monster would be the most traumatic thing of his day, because he's...
Someone dropping the child on their head is their most traumatic.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be your most traumatic thing of the day. Like me not hitting a PR in an exercise. That might be the most traumatic thing. We're all different. That's all relevant. It's also how much emphasis we put on things, and that's where stress mechanisms come in. And how do we cope with those things? And that has a massive downstream effect on a lot of things that people can't deal with.
Well, the point I wanted to drive with that ideal psychiatric patient, or that self-aware person that says, I hope there's something wrong with me and not something wrong with the world, is when you go on a mushroom trip, when you change your hormones, the world doesn't change.
No.
But the equipment from which you view it does.
Your perception,
Right? Your perception of the reality changes, which is important, which I think this too shall pass is a powerful statement. And it's true. There's no permanence to anything.
Like a kidney stone sometimes, it fucking hurts, but you get through it.
Everything passes, right?
Kidney stones.
Yeah.
Ask anybody who's had kidney stones, it's not a pleasant
Certain
experience.
demographic.
I haven't had one yet.
But so in that idea that your perspective changes on life is very important, and I think that's what hormonal adjustment, hormonal analysis really helps with, is that it's not going to make that burger not exist. It's going to make you self-aware enough to know that you don't need it. Your cortisol is at a manageable level. The other hormones in your body, or you have enough awareness. You have awareness that I don't need that junk food. It'll still exist, but the way in which you perceive it becomes a lot healthier. And I think that's where blood work analysis, understanding where you are, becomes a massively important tool.
And also correlating what you're dealing with in terms of blood work to what your life stresses are is just as important, because that is the cause, this is the effect. Fix the cause and the effect, and you'll be a very happy person. That's.
You'll find peace.
You'll find peace. Whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to have, as you said, that with the perfect psychologist patient, he can change one, be it the world or be it himself, but also, is it the world that's caused him to be the way that he is?
But even then, if it is the world, then you get to change your equipment, right? If you're not being in a good situation, and you can put it all the way down, you can do a microeconomic factor, is the microorganism that is your workplace. If that's inducing these mental health issues, change your workplace, right? If it's the country, the bigger the problem, the harder it gets to remove yourself from it.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't change a country, change a president.
No, that as well. But also, yet again,
simple solutions.
Yeah, but also then also
It
potential.
is rather simple. It's just getting to them. It's a problem.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also like change what you're exposed to. Stop fucking watching the news. Like
exactly,
that's the thing.
Yeah, but then also does the whole ignorance is bliss thing.
Absolutely.
Yes, 100%.
It's the truth. It's not healthy, but it's the truth.
But the thing is then are you prepared? Like then you have this sense of feeling ill-prepared, and I guess again it boils down to your personality.
It also gets down to the point is my knowing of the problem going to make my life change? Is my knowing of the problem going to allow me to actually change the problem?
Yeah, you know what, the thing is I actually had a conversation with somebody as well, a partner of mine in Cape Town, and he said to me, I deleted Twitter. And I was like, but why? And he's like, Rob, it was just so depressing that
toxic.
I realized that it's actually not going to change what I need to do today, except piss me off while I'm doing it. And I was like, you know what? I can understand that, but also I'm the type of person like, look, I enjoy learning, and I need the wisdom, and that drives me. So for me, as somebody who's a planner, I guess I prepare for worst case scenarios. I've always got a plan B to Z. In any situation, it'll happen, and I'll be like, okay, cool. We do this, we do this, we do this, we do this, or we do this. And it's like process of elimination. And the more information I have, the more prepared I feel. So I feel a lot more calmer having access to, the understanding of what the workings around me. So I try and fill my mind up with as much information as possible. But some people they can't cope with that. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you've always said is a problem spoken about is a problem halved. Like, you've got a solution then, you know what I mean? So like, you going from A to Z from worst case scenario is you've identified a problem, but then you're now working backwards to not make sure that it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So I agree.
It's a good coping mechanism. It's a pseudo control, but what I often find happens is that when you do scenario plan like that, if you've dealt with worst case scenario and you've dealt with best case scenario, theoretically at least, then anything in between is kind of okay.
Yeah.
Manageable.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that which has harmed me the most, emotionally and physically, was stuff I never planned for. Right?
Yeah, but that's normal.
But
A normal reaction to an abnormal situation.
yeah.
Circumstantial.
Yeah, but even in that is that you can process Twitter or news, external news and bad news in a better way. Your equipment, whatever you've gotten, whatever you've programmed yourself for, is equipped to do that. And I think that's where it needs to be looked at on an individual basis, right? And that's why, especially when it comes with hormones and endocrinology, is that each person is going to have a different. So that's why I asked you, what is the norm for testosterone? And you'll give me a number that's acceptable. But some people will be within range, they'll have that number and still have symptoms. Right? And you say, well, too bad, sorry, you're within range, go deal with it yourself.
But there's also there's a reason why it's called a range, right? You can be 10, 15% earlier or 10%, 15% later on that range as well, where you need to be optimal. And case in point is another female client of mine. She had subclinical hypothyroidism, but when presented, she was within range. She was at the bottom of the range. Put her onto thyroid replacement therapy. All of a sudden, she loses 5 or 6 kilos in the next 2 months by doing exactly the same thing. It's because she wasn't working within what's optimal for them. And another case in point is guys freak out about their EGFR numbers, wherein it's like 70 EGFR is your filtration rate of your kidneys. But it's worked out on somebody who's 1.73 meters tall, right? So somebody who is 1.8 or 1.9 meters tall would have if their EGFR is low, if they were using the right calculation, their EGFR might be higher. But because it's in the range that's of a certain number, they start freaking out. But then you start digging a little bit deeper, you take them and get cystatin C treatment, which also obviously takes, I'm talking of hypermuscular guys where that number is directly affected by creatinine, which is obviously a byproduct of having muscle tissue, whereas cystatin C has got no bearing on muscle tissue. So you might have a cystatin C that comes back at 0.73, which means that your kidneys are perfectly fine, but you got an EGFR of 45. Because your creatinine levels are high because you take a creatine supplement.
You're gonna die.
Literally, your doctor.
You've got 3 weeks to live.
Yeah, we had a client the same way that literally went to his doctor. His doctor's like, you need to do a whole full 24-hour urinary analysis, and came back to the same result as what the cystatin C presented, which was your kidneys are fine.
Yeah, I had one of those tests once, and the guy's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have got less than 6 months to live. And I was like, please come back on Monday. We'd like to run these tests again.
They told you on a Friday.
They told me on a fucking Friday.
Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm sitting there going,
You're gonna die, but we've actually, it's the weekend now. Can you die
Well, it's
on
like,
Monday?
so I'm like, I go back on the Monday and the doctor takes the test again. He's like, oh, sorry.
False
Sorry.
positive, right?
How was your weekend?
It's like,
I was giving out all my
thank
assets.
God I didn't tell my mother or my girlfriend or anything at the time. I just like, I internalized it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just process this for a bit. I'm dying.
But also, that being said, like, I know that obviously what I'm doing now is with Renee as a new business, whatever the case is, there are other guys out there that are doing something. I wouldn't say it's similar. I think that they are also interpreting blood work quite well and giving providing the right advice, you know. And I think that's the thing, is like, people are so scared to go to their doctors to talk about the sort of things because they're going to get a result like this. Oh my God, you've got testosterone of 700 nanograms per deciliter and your estradiol is at 160. And, you know, like, you think to yourself, hold on, well, like, I've got no symptoms of having high estradiol, like, I've got no gynecomastia, like, the first thing that they're going to do is, we're going to put you in a Arimidex and we're going to crash that estrogen to put it within range. And well, there's the neurological, there's no benefit neurologically, because as soon as you crash estrogen, it's not neuroprotective anymore. It's not cardiac protective anymore. It's not joint protective anymore. So, you know, like,
We use the analogy, it's a big hammer to hit a small nail.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What would reduce estradiol to put it within range? Reducing the testosterone dosing. So you're taking one drug to counteract the side effects of another drug.
It's chemical warfare.
No better way. You know, that is exactly it. It is chemical warfare.
Yeah.
It's also just having the right scientist who knows which chemical to put with which to create the most warfare.
Yeah. And, you know, we go back to the idea of bro science. And what's quite interesting is we've seen a lot of fads. Okay, diet fads, training fads, gear protocols, and especially with the creation and access to so many drugs. You see people saying, I've got to use this peptide with this at this time. And
IGF-1 was a big thing at one stage.
MGF
with PEG was a huge thing for hyperplasmia in certain muscle groups. Then there was the whole thing of, no, you've got to shoot in the muscle that you're trying to grow. And you're like,
site-specific
no,
growth.
that's bullshit.
and the weird thing
But
is,
also, we're willing to try it.
well, it gets popular because people like that they can outsource a lot of the hard work. And as you get older and you talk to guys that are training for years and years, you talk to old school bodybuilders, it's what you eat, you use a little bit of muti, and it's how hard you're training.
It's consistency over time.
And unless we are all on the same WhatsApp group telling the world to lie about what it is, we always see that these guys that become super or hyper analytical on these microdosings of X and Y and all these fancy protocols, it comes back to the same bro science that people are preaching. The same old thing Arnold was doing, calorie restriction. He knew, didn't understand it, but he knew. When it came to cutting the usual amounts of oats he would eat, he halved it. Right? That's how the guys did the maths. They weren't using apps. Now there's merit to tracking. I'm not saying that we don't have these tools that make.
We need metrics.
The athletes today are better than the athletes in the past. They're faster, okay? They're doing it more consistently.
Because they've got better access to drugs as well.
Yeah.
Drugs work. Exactly what you're saying is like, if you take the top 10 Mr. Olympia bodybuilders, top 10 powerlifters, I mean, you probably take that kid Colton, who's a fucking phenom at the moment.
He's a mutant, eh?
Absolute mutant. And you,
Lance Armstrong.
yeah, 100%. You know, at least he had the ball to do it, you know. But also, like, the big thing is, you take all of them, and we all have the same access to the same chemicals, the same drugs, whatever the case is. The application of those drugs are completely different from person to person. But everything that majority of these guys that are missing out on is when these guys sit around the table, they're like, how many calories are you consuming? Well, I'm consuming 6,000. How many you calories? I'm 4,000. I'm on 2,000 and whatever.
I wish.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? That's there's two ways to grow: milligrams and calories. Everybody is so focused on the milligrams that they forget about the fucking calories, and that's the biggest
and
thing.
eating's hard.
It's terrible.
I know it sounds like the most first world problem.
It is a first world problem.
It is a huge first world problem to hear.
I've never heard an Ethiopian saying I have to eat too much.
Auschwitz patient as well.
Yeah, eating is a hard thing to do because it requires time. I know, as someone that spends a lot of time in meetings and boardrooms, is that I can't take a lunchbox in there. And the only way to get meaningful calories in is to sit and chew. I remember Kai Green, when he was at his peak, he said, one of the best genetic benefits he has is that he has an appetite and he can put food away.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the biggest thing. Is like the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. All these new years kids are coming out and they're like, oh, but you need to take this. Drugs work, yes. Taking an exorbitant amount of drugs works. But what is your risk?
There's cost.
Yeah, there's cost. What is your risk to reward ratio? Now, if I asked you this question 2 years ago, you're like, I'll take all the drugs in the world. Like, just put me on an IV permanently.
And then you have Rich Piana dying at, 47?
Yeah, but now and I can almost go back to the day, and I can use this as the perfect analogy. You went through some really hard times, and you and I had this conversation saying, as long as you know what joy feels like, there's joy at the end of this rainbow, and you turned around and said to me, I don't know what joy feels like. 6 weeks later, through whatever you went through, you came back to me and said, I know what joy feels like. Now, 2 years later, you got a wife, or soon to be wife, child on the way. You've now taken on a new role in a new company. You've got huge growth.
Got rid of the small penis car.
Yeah, 100%. 2 years ago, you said you didn't want to live past 45, 50. Like, you were like, when my mom's gone, that's it, I'm done. Like, I'm ready to check out. Now you've got something to live for. Your risk-reward ratio is very vastly different. Yeah. You're not willing to take the excessive amounts of drugs because there is potentially a something that's going to break, and you're not going to be spending time with your child and your wife, and you're going to have to let people down because of your stupidity.
Yeah, I think it was probably the lens at which I was viewing the world, because if you zoom out far enough, it's not going to change. Right? Like, the world doesn't change much. People will carry on doing what they're doing. Life will tick on. Like, there'll be nuances.
I mean, the world doesn't stop spinning. We're all going to die. It's inevitable.
And the sun's always going to rise tomorrow.
It's going to rise tomorrow until it explodes. 5 billion years from now. There is going to be an end.
Yeah.
It's there's the inevitable, the end of the universe. It will happen in however many 100 billion years from now. But the thing is, it's like, that's not what life is about.
Yeah.
Life is about the nows, the experiences, the memories that you create with the loved ones that you're with. You know, for me, like going to Egypt with my girls was absolutely it was the highlight of my year. It's because I got to spend time with both my girls at the same time. And I mean, a lot of people will take this completely for granted because they have that opportunity, whereas I don't. I mean, my daughter lives in Australia. I come from my other daughter, she lives with me predominantly, so 65% of the time, but it's not us.
Yeah, but now looking at the risk that you've got where you enjoy riding superbikes and whatever the case is, you're now no longer riding that superbike on the freeway like you are on a track. You've now removed a lot of the risk out of your life because there is a lot of benefit to not having that risk. You know what I mean? Yet again, when we're 25 years old, 20 years old, that risk was like we couldn't give a fuck. We could live fancy free and footloose and whatever.
It's because we had less responsibilities. We had less.
Well, the lens in which we viewed life was quite limiting. And I'll go back to when I had those ideas of what was important. Is there was probably the equipment, right? My perception, my emotional processing of the world was probably not as profound, or what should I say? Not only profound, but the way in which what was important to me then is different now. It doesn't mean the world's changed.
No.
It means that my perception of it has. And that comes a lot from the submission to recovery, right? And recovery from, in terms of antidepressants, getting good sleep, managing the food and hormones I put in my body.
Vitamins, supplements.
Yeah.
Who you surround yourself with, the information you consume.
Yeah. When you change the equipment,
Even the
right?
music you listen to.
Dude, everything. Like when you change the equipment, you actually get to live in the present. Right? Mine is when I have to jump on fat burners. I always know my anxiety goes through the roof, and it's quite nice because I have my self-awareness is good.
Mine's listening to country music.
You can, perks is you don't have to listen to it for long.
I think also, I've lived by this. I was taught by this a friend of mine, Andrew Ensor Smith. He says you are the product of your 5 best friends.
Yeah.
If you surround yourself by 5 positive people, you're going to be the 6th one. If you're going to surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th one. It opens your world to opportunity.
Yeah, it does.
What was the Smiler put it up? What theory is it? The red car theory.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You see, in my head, I use the same thing, and I normally have that where it's like I find myself 2 friends that are what I would consider equals. Mm-hmm. I'll take on 2 friends who I can mentor myself, because that gives you a sense of I need to be responsible and I have a moral background to, I have to.
You have a duty.
I have a duty. There we go. So it gets dutiful. Beautifully put. Thank you. And then I like to find somebody who I feel I would like to aspire to. And the nice thing that what I found with that is that mentor has changed many, many times in my life. Because what I've done is I'll dig in, I'll ask questions, I want to learn. And look, I'm intellectual, so for me to grasp it and communalize myself to their industry and stuff like that, it's quite easy for me. But also, I get to see the things that I don't want from them. And I'm like, okay, so what was the risk reward? Okay, so you've got the reward, but what did you lose? I have a shit relationship with my children. Okay, I don't want that. Okay, so what am I going to sacrifice?
Well, there's the benefit of having a mentor is they've done the mistakes that you're going to do, right?
Yeah. Also, you get to base like the ethics. Like how much ethics does this person have? Or what rules did you have to break? Or
It's like, but also where are you in your life? I mean, what was important to me 5 years ago is not as important. I remember guys who were driving sports cars and professional athletes or bodybuilders. They were the guys I was aspiring to be. And then I became that guy. And now it's guys that are successful businessmen and have happy families, right? That look forward to family holidays, not just have families, but look forward to those family holidays, because that's the true test. There's a lot of guys overwork because they're miserable at home. But a guy that actually wants to take his family on holiday, and that is the best time of his life, that's all he wants to do. Those are guys I'm looking at and going, hey, how did you build this empire? And how did you keep your family? How are you still so in love with your wife and kids?
Priorities.
Well, yeah.
And choice. You choose to love that person.
I think Rob's got it waxed, is that the guys you looked up at before, as you get to know that world, you go, whoa. Not that you want to cherry pick, because there is a cost to everything, right?
But you can cherry pick. That's your choice, right?
You can, but we chatted about this the one day, is that some people want stuff, but they have the work ethic of a Toyota, but they want a Porsche. Okay? No, act your wage, right? There's a cost to acquisition. And if you're not happy with it, and sometimes you're not, right? There is often opportunities where I could have gone and got work for what I do in Joburg. I don't want that lifestyle.
oh, dude, you do not want that.
Not in the work, and I've had
But
to
some people love
compromise. But some people do. And
How? Spending 2 hours in traffic every day? Wow! Like what?
they're listening to our podcast, right?
We are.
That's why they're happy.
Yeah. And you're right. There is a cost to acquisition. Also, the biggest problem comes in is for a long time you sit in your own way.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest lesson about my mushroom trip was like, get out of your own way. Ask people for help and ask for guidance. Today, I asked you for some advice and some feedback. Every single thing that you said, I didn't take it personally. I was like, I appreciate this because it means somebody cares.
Yeah.
I asked Caleb just now for advice on creating short form content. He gave me good advice because he cares. Like, when you start asking...
He doesn't, don't get confused. Caleb doesn't care.
I just, when Rob's not here, I'm coming to visit. You know, so he's going to help me then. You know, but at the same time, like, yet again, like, you've got to not be afraid to ask, and yet again that goes down to mental health as well. You got to be not afraid to ask for help. You got to surround yourself with the right people that are going to give you the right advice and the right help.
I think another part where personal growth for me was letting go of a lot of because I mean the thing is I mean look, shit happens and shit happens and there are shitty people and you're going to be insulted, offended, somebody's going to wrong you, and it's having the ability to not drink the poison and wish that they die, because eventually you're going to have to yes, cut the person off or whatever it may be, remove from the situation, but you know the whole story of forgive and forget, don't forget but forgive type story.
I always say that the benefit of burning a bridge is at least you know which side of the bridge you stand on. And you've always taught me that one thing that you cannot give is offense, you can only take it. So whatever somebody says is up to their interpretation to be offended by it or not.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same, like, I think the story I heard about that was if someone came to you in a foreign language and swore at your mother, you wouldn't take offense. That's because you can't assign meaning to a language you don't understand. So in the same token, if someone is coming to you and they're trying to offend you, but that's just not your vibe, you're not going to take offense. It's hard to do, but you know, and that's where there's merit in when people trigger you. It's a lesson in what you find offensive, and it's a lesson. Say thank you for pointing out a trigger to me. Thank you. I'm actually pretty self-conscious about how my earlobes look. Everyone's looking at my earlobes. Right.
Hey, that's the thing.
I've got great ears, by the way.
I have terrible ears. The one's flappy.
That's why why he's wearing a beanie.
100%
exposed.
And also, just to illustrate on what you just said there, one thing that I took away from this weekend, obviously dealing with my trip sitter, she was amazing. She got me through absolutely everything, opened my eyes to a lot of the things.
Don't do drugs, kids, unless they're free.
Psychedelics.
Don't buy drugs.
Get
them for free.
One of the things that she said to me was, is this happening to you or is this happening for you?
Yeah.
And when you stop looking at it and start looking at everything as an opportunity, that's where life changes.
Mycelium is a very, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's something my psychologist over the last 7 years has said to me is life does not happen to you, it happens for you.
You learnt it long before I did. I'm very thankful that I've learnt it now. Has it impacted my life this week? And will it impact my life for the rest of the time? Yes, 100%. Yet again, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right?
Yeah, well, the
teacher might happen to be a golden teacher mushroom, but
the teacher's always there. It's when you're ready, you listen.
Yeah. And as they say, the Zen master never looks for the student.
It just arrives, right?
And so all these things, and someone's going to happen across what we're talking about today, and they're going to be in a certain mood, and it was time by whichever
metric.
Yeah, by whichever you want to say, God did it, you want to say universe did it, whatever. You saw the discussion we were having, and you're going to go, hey man, maybe I need to go and get some blood diagnostics because maybe that's not going to solve it. I think this is what a lot of people have, this misconception that you're going to get something, they're going to give you a pill. It's going to give you better equipment to process what's happening in the world. It's not going to change the world, right? Your relationship with your wife is not going to fix. However, when she says something potentially antagonistic or the stress she's going through that she needs to dump on you, your faculties could just be better at processing it.
Yes. You could take it less personally, or
you could just be, and I think
it's not a personal attack. It's actually shit. She's having shit at work.
And just remember your vows. right? And I think that's what, it's that whole idea, and I think you nailed it earlier, Rob, is that I can't watch the news. Personally, for me, I'm quite an empathetic person. I get entrenched and
Yeah, I'm a cold-hearted bitch.
yeah. Then so when I watch the news, it actually upsets me. I get really upset. I can't do anything, or maybe I'm not doing enough, and that's just my personality. Now I know if I had to conform to the idea of being informed, that would probably just make me worse for wear.
And that's probably also shaped the line of business that you've stayed in, is that going into economics and trading and whatever the case is in hedge fund management, which you had the capability of doing so, which mean that you would have to expose yourself to all of those factors on a daily basis.
Yeah. Listen, I can digest business news. I find numbers fine.
Yeah, but the problem comes is it's not only the business news that affects everything. It's
Correct.
also the rest of it. This person's bombing that person, that person, whatever.
Yeah,
it all has a
that cult is doing that.
Yeah.
This religion's saying this. That religion, Israel, Hamas, Ukraine, Russia, Trump.
Because you've not wanted to expose yourself to that kind of trading world, it's made you highly successful in other ways.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit, right?
And people often, you don't watch the news, I'll be like, but I'm doing okay. It's, could I be doing better? Always, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's always I wish that there was a feel-good news channel.
No, but it's just not popular.
That's the problem,
Remember,
right?
Our biological programming is that which threatens us is the most attractive to know about, because that's how we're programmed. We need to know about threats. If something is good, it's not threatening. Our faculties, that's how we're built, is not to respond to stuff that's good. If it's good and harmless, that's fine.
So in order to get us traction in our podcasts, we've got to be like, this podcast is gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, and we're gonna be like, if you don't listen to this, you could die. Yeah. That should be our clickbait.
It's gonna be the end of the world.
Yeah.
Also, yet again, it goes down to emotional and dealing with emotions that we've spoken about. I think it's like for every one negative emotion, you have to reinforce it with 5 to 10 positive emotions. And it goes down to the point where it's because misery loves company, and the body accumulates memories via emotion.
It doesn't love it. I think it needs it.
Yeah. But also, I don't say that, because now you're thinking about it and you say, oh shit, I stubbed my toe and it's been painful and I'm irritated with myself. Do you remember that time that you were 7 when you also felt that same irritation? Then you're on to the next one, and on to the next one, and on to the next one. And it's like a chain reaction. That's where misery loves company. And it's emotion-based, and it's not timeline-based.
Well, we're a species that we pursue that which we do not have. So there's a spectrum, right? You pursue that which gives you pleasure, or you run away from that which gives you pain. And we know the human species is far better at fleeing from pain. Now, what successful people do is they move that which they do not have, right, the pursuit of pleasure, into the zone of me being without that is painful. Right? Because that gives them more power. It propels them more.
I've never thought of it that way. You're right.
So, and it's a simple concept. Like for the example of getting rid of my sports car, is it actually really bugs me, and I have no doubt that I'm going to get it back, and it'll be different. Maybe it'll be 5 years, but I will have.
Please get a better brand.
I will have a car just as sexy. I don't know why you hate it so much.
Because they break.
But the idea is, and I would have never had that unless I experienced it and could move it into a spot.
You see, there you go. It's the experience that's created you to want it again. Be it now, be it later. Your priorities are different at this point in time.
Yeah.
But right now, baby, wife, whatever the case is, telling your best friend that you're a secret billionaire and you've just been testing his loyalty for the rest of the time. I'm waiting for that day, But at the same time, we have to accept that, and you're just making priorities more you're looking at life through different lenses at this point in time. In 5 years' time, when your little boy jumps in the car and says, Dad, I want to go really, really fast, you're like, okay, now it's time for me to get my sports car again.
No. Then you come riding bikes.
No.
Come on. I've got a 50 PV. We'll get him on the bike.
That's my retirement plan.
Get him on a bike.
Die early.
I've got enough money to live until when? Next Tuesday.
I'm going to make it to 3 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Common symptoms, checks to do, hormones, mental health.
I think we covered absolutely everything.
I think we got some more.
Yeah.
So maybe you just want to tell us about how we can find it, when it's going to launch.
So everything's being finalized at this point in time.
What's it called?
So the company is called PEDs, which is a play on the performance enhancing drugs that we all like to use.
I like it.
It is called Performance Enhancing Diagnostic Solutions. So it, obviously that's going to be pdsolutions.co.za, and as you can go through there. We're busy trying to partner up with a cheaper path lab countrywide, because the biggest barrier to entry for a lot of people is getting access to cheap blood work. So we're going to be in contact with one or two of the other path labs that will offer cash rates, so that anybody countrywide can benefit from utilizing it. Currently, we do have a couple of options locally that do very cheap blood work, which makes it more affordable for people to do it more frequently. And then, so then the website will be up I would say probably the 8th of August. Everything will be online. Social media posts will be going up. There's something repetitive about the 8th of the 8th. For me, I like 888 as an abundance kind of thing. So the 8th of the 8th, probably 8 o'clock in the morning, will be when the first post will go up.
Oh, thank God it's not 2028, because that's 3 fucking years from now.
Yeah, no. So like my goal is the 8th of August. Very random date for most people, but there's some symbolism to that. And then so we basically break everything down. I look at your training, your nutrition, your blood work. I work with other coaches if they don't want me. If you just want the blood work, like you were going to a doctor, and we can circle a few things. And if there is solutions that needs to be scripted, obviously being a doctor, Renee will be able to script for other coaches as a diagnostic service. But if you want a full report, that comes at a cost. And if you want to utilize the service like you would be going to your GP, that comes at another cost. And then from there, if you need personalized coaching, either I can help you or forward you on to other people that I would recommend as well. We've got 2 very good friends in this industry, Soren Gibbons, who's doing great work, and Sean Files and his wife Kaylee also doing very, very good work, that I'm happy to refer on to other people as well. I don't think that there's enough sunshine for everybody of us to get a piece of it, and I think they feel the same way as well.
Yeah, we use the term in corporate especially that there is a lot of room at the top.
Yes.
And it's a term you use with people that are working hard.
Yes.
Because what differentiates the middle and the top is hard work.
And also, my mentality is you can't build an empire alone.
Yeah.
You need more than one person to carry a table.
And the funny thing is, like, I've worked with both of them. I coached Soren, I think, back in 2009, and he's taken his coaching business to new heights. He's opened up his own little SGT gym, and training there is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Sean, also, I'm working with him currently, looking absolutely peeled to the bone. I think I worked with him for his first show. Yeah. Kaylee, also fucking one of the hardest workers in the room. And it's like really amazing to watch how I've been able to impact Sean's coaching life, because I started with him, I was his first coach, and how he's grown and how we bounce things off one another is also amazing. Like, I think that's the biggest thing is, if I don't know an answer, I'm not one of those people that can't say to you, I don't know. Like I will happily say, I don't know, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, that's something I learned as well. Is don't say no, it's I'll go find out.
But there's also power in actually accepting that you don't know something.
Yeah, 100%. But it's not, I don't know, it's I want to go find out.
Yeah. So the whole goal of the business is to make you perform better, and how that could happen is through lifestyle change, through nutrition change, through supplementation and vitamins and minerals, or drugs. Like if we need to get you to have prescription medication because your blood glucose is through the roof and you've got genetically high cholesterol, unfortunately we have to use. Unfortunately, herbal options can only get you so far with lifestyle change and everything else like that. And if we have to prescribe, we have to prescribe. But that's always going to be the last case scenario.
Yeah, I think the idea of having the end goal is someone that's happy, healthy, and sustainably living, and what that looks
like. And performing.
Yeah.
There's a difference between obviously increasing longevity, but it's also in performance, but it's just quality of life as well.
Yeah, and that's powerful. Is that you don't, and you spoke about it earlier, is the idea of purely living for a future version of yourself is not living. There is a present, there is a moment that you need to enjoy right now.
But that potentially could be just survival. Survival's not living.
Yeah.
Not thriving,
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking to do.
So I think that's powerful. And I think the idea of doing that in a way that makes life worth living and upgrading your equipment.
Yeah.
Right? And that equipment changes as we get older. It doesn't get worse, it changes.
My biggest take home for somebody to come and get this service from Renee and I is, I'm now enlightened to what's going on. I have a better understanding of what my body is going from. It was the best decision I could have made, and I'm willing to help other people do it.
Stop avoiding the news.
Yeah. But then that's where referral comes in.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, cool, I've got my report. I now know what I'm looking for when I go for blood tests. When this marker is out, what does it mean? And why does that correlate to what my lifestyle is doing? And what are the lifestyle changes I can implement? Okay, cool. It doesn't, there's something wrong with me. These are the steps that I can take to fix it. And that's where the benefit comes in, is because that takes from people from just surviving to thriving.
Dreamy.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that.
Welcome to the party.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, very cool, man. Very, very cool.